Good evening, everyone. Welcome and Happy New Year. It is our first meeting of 2023 here for the regular meeting of Lacombe City Council on Monday, January the 9th, and it is 5:28, p.m. We wanted to be a little ahead of schedule because we've got a busy evening to start with. We appreciate everyone being here, and I will call the meeting to order. Council, you've got an agenda before you. Is there any of the consent agenda items that you'd like to see removed? If not, either way, we need a motion.
1 second.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I
Seriously,
would
help
move
us
that
out.
we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Very good. Anyone else? And I think we're going to do this one old school. All those in favor? Thank you. That is unanimously passed. And then for the overall agenda itself, there is one in-camera item that I would like to see added, if that is okay. Does anyone have anything else? Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you. I don't have any additional items, so I would move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you for that. And we do have for voting rather. I expect that will be good test for the system anyway. Looks like a new interface for us to see today. And that will be up shortly. And for the purpose of that we'll need some cleaning up. It says adopted as presented. Thank you for noting that, Councillor Dallas. So that is adopted as amended. As long as we're of that understanding, everyone. Thank you. So the first item up is a presentation. Item 4.1, the Lacombe Athletic Park Association track update. And we have with us three individuals, the chair, Jay Adamson, the secretary treasurer, Mr. Jason Lund, and the marketing chair, Diane Haydick, who's going to be leading the discussions this evening. Very good. I'll just remind you for the benefit of everybody watching at home and in the gallery to use your microphone and hold it a little closer to your mouth when the red light is on. Just push the bar at the bottom. When the red light is on, that means it's active. Very good. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having us in for our yearly presentation. So again, we always appreciate the support from the city of Lacombe for what we have going on at the Lacombe Athletic Park. I know over the past little while that we've had, lots of excitement going on at the park with, our expansion of our field house and how we've, been sharing about what we have for future plans with our track expansion. But just to remind everybody that, access to the park, we are free use for our community. And again, a lot of that is because of the city of Lacombe and support that you guys give us. With the $50,000 a year that you contribute to us, that helps us with our operating costs, that helps us keep it open to the public. And we're grateful for that. Some highlights that we've had this past year, just to share with you things that have been going on. We did have Ultimate Frisbee event, which was part of the city recreation grant that we had for youth. So we were able to have that this past spring. Again, we had our grand opening of our field house. So thank you to all councillors and mayor for attending. We appreciate that very much. Lacrosse is a major user of our park, so that's been an increase of a different sport rather than just football. Again, we're not just a football field. We have soccer, we have lacrosse, we have Quidditch, there's field hockey, rugby. So, I mean, there's tons of different users of the park. And, as you know, hopefully that we become a track and field facility as well, even though we do have kids running on there for track and field training as it is. And then we also hosted the the Run for a Track community fundraiser this past summer, which was a huge success. We had lots of different people from all areas of the province actually attend and start and end at our facility, and run through the city of Lacombe. Again, we also have the basketball courts on the side, and they are largely used as well. One of the main reasons, though, that we are here today is for our track and field expansion and to keep you updated. So we are continually expanding. An endeavor that we have undertaken right now is we are working with Scott Builders to make sure that our expansion plans and our process is 100% shovel ready. When we had applied for past grants, that was some feedback that we had received that we weren't shovel ready enough. And so we are working with Scott Builders, and I've attached some of the information that you can see. They have done more surveys on the park. They've laid out the actual through their surveying process, they've laid out the facility. And so as a result, to get more shovel ready and to make sure with their plans and with the work that we've done with Athletics Alberta and Athletics Canada, who has kind of signed off on our design really and said, this will work. This will make sure that you are a certified facility. We realized that we need a little bit more land. Originally, we felt that we could have the jumping pits on the west side of the field, right close to the field house. Unfortunately, with the rounded corners that we would need to make sure that we are a certified facility, that would push the jumping pits pretty much right into the stairs of the field house. And that just, I don't believe would really work well for the facility or for users of the park. So with Scott Builders and with one of the attachments, the modified 400-meter layout, sorry, I believe I can click. You can see that we have moved in the darker red area, the jumping pits to the east side. That is currently where trees are located on Wolf Creek property. Now, we did a walkthrough with Murray Cunningham and one of the Wolf Creek maintenance supervisors just to look at the area and what we would need. And again, our request to you is that you would go to Wolf Creek and ask to open up the lease to access this land. When we communicated and did our walkthrough with the Wolf Creek maintenance facility there, or at the facility there, there would be minimal impact to them. Right now, it's just an area where they have a few things laying down, just in relation to storage, but it's just a certain section of trees that would need to be removed. And as is our feeling for the track to be installed and not cause future issues, we'd probably need to remove those trees as it is, so we don't have roots coming up through the asphalt and into the rubber, which is what you see right now in Ponoka, for example, on their track.
Excuse me, Jay, just for clarity then, the light red area that you've got indicated there vertically, where exactly is the current property line or fence line, I guess, located now? Is it right in between the blue track and the dark red space shown there, or is it in the middle of the red, light red area?
So the current fence line is actually right on the left-hand side of the light red area, that utility right-of-way. So the work that Scott Builders did, I believe they're TELUS lines and I don't remember the other company, but it would not cause a major impact to be over top of those. There is no concern in relation to what Scott Builders has in relation to their survey information. So it's specifically though, the dark red area is what we're looking at, is what we would need. And that lies within Wolf Creek's leased area.
Thank you.
One more thing, sorry, just to add about this process, to be shovel ready. We are working with Scott Builders as well to really look at how we can build this facility in stages. So making sure that for some reason, should we need to stop, should there be funding that is not there, that we have stages set up that the facility or our construction plans could sit for a year and we won't have to have more dollars spent, or we won't have to redo something. And so that is that is how this process of being shovel ready and understanding exactly where everything is in relation to our survey information is within the park. So we have all information possible to make sure we're making the best decisions for the facility use and financially.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add? Mr. Lund, no? Okay. You're being very conservative with your time allotment. Are there any questions for the presenters? Councillor Dallas?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. In regards to the shovel ready, that is one of the grants from the provincial and federal government is what's, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was the one.
So that was the CFEP. That was their number one, I guess, point number one of their feedback the last time that we had applied, which I wish they would maybe give you more information each time you apply, because we felt that we were shovel ready last time, but then they give you more details, you know, so that's why we thought, okay, we need to actually go to the professionals. That's why we are working with Scott Builders. So we actually have all the details of the park.
Councillor Gullickson?
Thank you very much. I'm very excited about the project. I think it's will be an amazing addition to our community. I do have some concerns regarding the utility right away. What other utilities are within the boundaries of that right away? Do you know?
So whether or not you have that information
It
right
doesn't
now.
really matter.
And I'm sorry, I don't have that exactly. I know he had mentioned TELUS. I know when we had talked with Murray, it was not something he was concerned about in relation to his experience with construction projects. But that can be something that I can get to you guys ASAP.
I'm just concerned if there, for example, if there was water and sewer, different things within that boundaries of that it would be a concern. There's no sewer lines within there or anything, no storm sewer. Yeah, it's a very large right of way, so it's surprising that that's not in there. Yeah, I think that'd be, you know, I certainly would be in support of that additional. If they need something from the city, I would certainly be supportive of that. I like the idea of expanding into that area instead of going into your field house. But I think that would be very sad if you had to take away that space on that side.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just to be clear, we were aware that you applied for the grant. Did you? So I'm assuming you did not receive it, or is it still in the process?
We're still in process. We still haven't heard from the province yet. So we were hoping to hear before Christmas. I know last year, like, we were hoping to hear early fall, and it wasn't until right before Christmas. And now this year, we still haven't received any information yet.
Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. My question would be, just for clarification, so you're asked today then to be shovel ready is to have opened up negotiations with Wolf Creek and have an agreement in place, but not requiring any actual physical changes to occur, just an agreement to allow that as a possibility. Is that correct?
Well, I guess we would ask that the head lease be opened with that additional land included within it. So to be rewritten, and that would be the only thing within the current head lease. So it was 3 years ago. We went through this process with, sorry, I forget her name from the city. Deb, thank you. We had worked with the process with Deb to clean up a lot of because we had different amendments and such. And that included our current lease then included a lot of the land to the north, because that wasn't part of it before. We did not know at that time that we would need to move to the east. We knew that we would need to move to the north, but not to the east.
Fair enough. And I think I understand that. I guess I'm just asking that what you're asking is that the lease would now reflect that need, so that you would have the land to the east, but your ask does not necessarily include, making any, trees cut down or any of that kind of stuff at this moment. It's just to allow that possibility. That's what your ask is today.
Yes, just
Perfect.
100% that.
Okay, thank you.
Chief Gotti, just so everyone is on working with the same information, on our drawing, it's listed as existing building. I believe that is a Wolf Creek Schools maintenance building that's located within the city public works yard. So with respect to the current agreement, how does that all fit in now?
Actually, although it appears to be within the city's public works maintenance yard, it is a separately titled lot that just has never been delineated by a fence. I believe there are cross-access agreements in place, although I haven't actually viewed them myself, that allow for their equipment across the cities and vice versa. But that is all Wolf Creek Public School Division's land.
Very, very good. So I just wanted to be upfront about that. I don't know that it's necessarily work that needs to be put forward by the city, being we do not have title to that particular space, which is being infringed upon with this current plan.
That is correct, but it is the city that holds the lease for all of the lands associated with the Lacombe Athletic Park Association. And I believe Wolf Creek Public Schools will want to continue that direct relationship with the city, who then subleases to the Lacombe Athletic Park Association, rather than have a standalone component of the lease with them and a larger one with us.
That makes way better sense. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Anyone else? You're getting off pretty easy with the questions tonight. We appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with us this evening. I'm sure that you are in constant communication with Director Lapointe, I believe, and see no reason why that won't continue. But thank you all for presenting tonight.
Thank you. And again, we appreciate your guys' support. Park, it doesn't happen without volunteers, and it doesn't also happen without the city's support. So again, thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you. So we find ourselves in a little bit of an unusual spot. Because of the MGA, I don't believe that we're able to start 15 minutes early in our public hearing. So there are a few items on the agenda, none of which are particularly well suited to a short period of time. Which one would you recommend that we tackle? Very good. So we'll bounce down the agenda to item 6.3, bylaw 450.1 for the utility bylaw amendment. Director Thompson, if you could lead us through that one, and keep in mind we've got about 13 or 14 minutes.
Understood, Mayor
Thank you.
Christie. Thank you very much, and I'll do my best. And Happy New Year to everyone. Administration is requesting council to adopt the amending bylaw 450.1 to correct a mistype that is included in the current utility bylaw 450 that was recently passed. The mistype is to the tune, or it affects 3 commercial solid waste pickup rates. Scheduled biweekly pickup per bin, scheduled weekly pickup per shared bin, and the non-scheduled extra pickup per bin. The rate in bylaw 450 is 56.8, which is an error, and would actually be a decrease from the 2022 rate. And the rate that was included in the model and was intended to be included in bylaw 450 was $62.13 per month. And so to correct this, this error, administration is requesting the council pass this amending bylaw to make that adjustment, and if possible, in 3 readings tonight. Although council could do 1 reading or 2 readings tonight and save 3rd reading until the 2nd meeting in January, if they so choose, and that would still allow administration to include the new rate on the January billing. So tonight we're asking council to pass 1st reading, 2nd reading, if there's time, to consider all 3 readings and then pass 3rd reading tonight. And if there's any questions, Mayor Creasy, I'm happy to answer them.
Appreciate that, Director Thompson. Normally 3 readings in one evening are problematic. I would say probably for this council more than most. However, in this instance, I see this as very little more than a clerical error. One that normally we would just take care of in-house, but because it is a bylaw that affects irrespective through the MGA, we have to go through this process. I appreciate you bringing it forward, just so everybody understands the reasons why this isn't just a matter of changing a few numbers on a document. It's a little more involved than that. So, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I mean, it's always disappointing when an error is made, but I fully appreciate that administration caught it and it is now conveniently being able to correct this then before it went through 3 readings. So I move that council give 1st reading to bylaw 450.1.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
I was just going to follow up with the 2nd one after this 1st one.
Very good. And I believe that we have 1st reading on our monitors before us, so please go ahead and vote. It is unanimously passed, and although I did not specifically ask for any additional questions, certainly if there are any, bring them forward. Once again, I see this as kind of a clerical thing, but Councillor Ross. Microphone, please.
I think I was just going to as I said earlier, I was just going to wait for the 2nd.
That's where we're at.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my apologies. Yeah, thank you. I make the motion that council give 2nd reading to bylaw 450.1, please.
Thank you. Any questions before we consider the vote? Please go ahead. And then once those numbers come up, which is unanimously in favor, if we are so inclined to consider the 3rd and final reading for this evening. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Do we have to have this motion in here to consider 3 readings?
Yes.
Yes, so
We do.
that's the motion I will make, that
Correct.
council consents to consider all 3 readings of bylaw 450.1 in one meeting.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. And with this unanimous vote, all green, we may consider 3rd reading. Anyone? Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council gives 3rd reading to bylaw 450.1.
Thank you for that. And I believe that IT has it up for our consideration, so please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimous as well, as you can tell by all the green borders around the names as well. We're far too efficient because we have another 7 minutes. Given that we do have a public hearing coming up and no idea how long that will take, I think they will take a short recess and reconvene here in 6 minutes promptly to start at 6 p.m. Thanks, everyone. Very good, thank you. So it is 6 PM. We'll maybe glance down to the agenda for our public hearing, item 5.1 for bylaw 400.41. And before we do start, I'm going to have Albert Flukman, formerly of the great and close city of Panoka, now with PCBS, here. If you'd care to introduce yourself and your colleague, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm Albert Flutman. I'm Interim Director of Parkland Community Planning Services. I'm here with my colleague Sarmad Abbasi. Sarmad's the planner at PCPS who's been handling this file on behalf of the city of Lacombe. And he will be making the presentation for the public hearing this evening.
Wonderful. I appreciate you both being here. So with respect to our public hearing, as mayor, I declare the statutory public hearing for bylaw 400.41 now open, and that this hearing is held pursuant to section 7, 8, 230, 606, 640, and 692 of the MGA 2000 as amended, and request our legislative coordinator to confirm the purpose of this hearing, and that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are read into the record. Coordinator Bellabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and council. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow the general public to provide input to the proposed amending bylaw 400.41, given first reading November 28th, 2022. Bylaw 400.41 proposes to amend the land use bylaw 400. If approved, bylaw 400.41 will allow transitional housing with up to 10 accommodation units and 5 offices within the existing building as a discretionary use on the west part of lot 30, plan RN9. The subject site is located at 5346 50th Avenue. Per section 606 of the MGA requirements for advertising, a public hearing notice was advertised as shown on page 33 of the agenda in the Lacombe Express Thursday, December 22nd, 2022 and Thursday, December 29th, 2022. Mayor Creasy and council, 2 written submissions were received, which are included in the agenda package, and 6 members of the public have registered to speak this evening.
Thank you very much. And no written submissions were received afterwards and not in our package then?
That is correct.
Appreciate the confirmation. Thank you. So I'll remind that everyone that all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name, and presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order of the statutory public hearing presentation will be as follows. Our development officer or designate, who you're introduced to earlier, those in favor, then followed by those opposed, and then finally by any person deemed to be affected and who wishes to be heard. With that in mind, I would call on our development officer to open now, and just a reminder to use the microphone for the benefit of those watching either at home or behind you in the gallery. When the red light is on, it is active. Very good. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The subject site is located on the north side of 50 Avenue to the west of the downtown core. As you may see, the subject site is outlined in pink on the accompanying aerial photo. Now, the site contains 1 main building with approximately 10,000 square footage floor area that was previously used as an outreach school operated by the Wolf Creek School, Wolf Creek Public School. And prior to that, the subject site is the former site of the Lacombe Pentecostal Church. There is an existing rear parking lot, and the building can be accessed through both the rear and front entrances. Now, a little bit into the use of the site. The proposed use is to renovate the existing building for 2 main uses. The first being up to 5 offices, which will be for the purpose of counseling and intakes for applicants. And the second use for transitional housing to support women experiencing difficult life events, which have led these women to face housing difficulties. Now, these life events may include the loss of a partner, a medical condition, losing a job, a mental health challenge, divorce, domestic and sexual abuse, and more. However, the Broomtree Foundation, the applicant, they have explicitly made clear that women facing visible addictions or women who may have their lives in danger due to domestic abuse, such applicants will be referred to a specialized facility, including a women's shelter or a rehab facility. Now, regarding occupancy periods, the transitional housing it's not intended to be a permanent housing for the residents. The typical stay by occupants will be in a unit. In a unit, it will be ranged between 2 to 6 weeks. The maximum stay proposed, it will be up to 1 year. However, the Broomtree Foundation, they have noted that there may be times in the year where the building may remain empty, or it may be experiencing higher volume of applicants due to certain, whatever the reasons may be, but a maximum of 10 units is proposed for this site. Now, this proposed use of the site was preliminarily reviewed by the Development Authority against the land use bylaw for regulations regarding parking, landscaping, and parcel development requirements. And preliminarily, there were no concerns regarding the proposed site size and design. However, it is important to note that the applicant will still be required to formally apply for a development permit application should the proposed bylaw be approved. The Development Authority at that time will review the parcel development regulations thoroughly at that time and may or may not attach additional conditions with the development permit. Of note, the applicant has indicated that they will use the existing rear parking lot as well as install additional landscaping such as flower beds to blend the use with the surrounding residential properties. Now, the subject site is identified as general residential lands within the municipal development plan, and more specifically, the MDP policy RES 5.5 speaks to the redevelopment of existing neighborhoods and promoting sensitive infill opportunities. And upon review, this proposal meets the intent of the MDP. Now, more specifically, this within the downtown area redevelopment plan, this subject site, it falls within the Old Town Main Street district area. Now, the subject site within the DRP, it's in the context of the DRP. Some of the policies, they state to reinforce the historical significance of this area through the preservation or adaptive reuse of historical buildings. Now, the subject site, it's not a historical building. However, it has remained vacant for the last several years. The adaptive reuse of this building would align with the intent of the Old Town Main Street district. Now, within the land use bylaw, the proposed activity would be a site-specific exception as a discretionary use under the R1 district. If the proposed bylaw is approved, the corresponding development permit application will be sent to MPC for approval. Once again, to note, it will be sent to MPC for approval. Now, a little bit into the context of this parcel and how it came to be. Former policies within the land use bylaw for Lacombe, they allowed for places of worship within residential districts. Those policies have since been repealed. This leaves this building that was formerly used as a church followed by a outreach school, and now it sits vacant. Now, without an amendment to change the current use, this building, it's restricted to the permitted and discretionary uses allowed in the R1 district, and you may see that in the attached Schedule B along with this report. Now, all neighboring property owners within 60 meters were consulted via direct written notification, and council has reviewed this, pardon me. Upon review of relevant policies and surrounding uses, the proposed use is deemed compatible with the surrounding area. Bylaw 400.41 is recommended by administration for council approval. Mayor Creasy, with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you very much. Council require any clarification at this point in time? Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just one at this moment. You did mention that it would be up to 10 units. Can you define what a unit would be? Would that be appropriate for a single woman, for example, or would that involve units that are appropriate for children and a mother, for example?
A unit would include, it would be appropriate for women and children.
Very good. So next up, we have those speaking in favor. So if I could have you gentlemen move off to the side here. If we got some other chairs for you to wait, hopefully. And just a brief reminder for everyone speaking today to clearly state their name. And when the red light is on, that means the sound equipment is active.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Creasy, council members, neighbors, and citizens of Lacombe here. My name is Tamara Nordoff. I'm one of the founders of the Broomtree Foundation, and I serve as program director. I've been an active member of the City of Lacombe for almost 30 years. Like many people in this room who are part of the, like many people in this room and who are part of the Broomtree team, Lacombe is also my community. I grew up playing sports here. I've worked here. I volunteered in many different capacities in this community, including volunteering with Victim Services for 12 years. To this day, I continue to serve Lacombe by coaching baseball, fastball, boxing, as well as sitting on numerous boards throughout the years and serving in my church. I'm invested in this community. I love Lacombe. Along with Donna Abba and our board, we were able to make even bigger investments into the future of this great city. The Broomtree was started 3 years ago as another way to serve the dynamic and growing needs of the many families that contribute to what makes Lacombe the best city to be a part of. As you all know, Lacombe is growing and so are the needs. In the past 3 years, the Broomtree Foundation has served over 240 women, not including their partners and children, in a variety of ways. All with the ultimate goal of encouraging them to be valued, contributing members of the community. The Broomtree Foundation can confidently say that the positive impact on the citizens of Lacombe has contributed significantly to the overall well-being of this great city as a whole. Due to the many partnerships we have with other agencies, schools, churches, and our many volunteers, Lacombe is improving every day. Many of these representatives are here today to show their support here behind me, and we are very grateful to them. It truly is the greatest city to live, and we are so proud to be contributors to that title. Unfortunately, we are dealing with a significant lack of affordable housing here in Lacombe. We have seen an increase in families facing homelessness. It is important to note that the face of homelessness in Lacombe looks different than what you would typically see in larger urban areas. 54% of Canadians live paycheck to paycheck, and it continues to rise due to the cost of living crisis. The women and their families that are in need of immediate housing could be our sister, daughter, friend, mother, and even our grandmother, all of which we've seen the past 3 years. Of the 40 women that we have helped this year alone in regards to housing, and that's just housing specifically, 30 of them were not facing addictions or family violence. They are your kids' coaches, servers, nurses, stay-at-home moms, and teachers. They too are the women that make Lacombe such a great place to live. Having a safe and affordable home is a basic human right. In the event that an individual is facing a unique life circumstance that finds them homeless, it is our goal to make sure that transition is quick, safe, and effective. This is why we are asking council and the community to support our efforts in acquiring this property. Over the past month, our team has been busy reaching out to the neighborhood around the former outreach school. We went door to door and invited the neighborhood to attend one of 2 open houses located at our cafe. We want to thank you so much to all of those neighbors that came out to ask those questions and attended those events. From there, I wanted to address 3 key questions that kind of came up that was kind of the main thing that people were concerned about and wanted some clarification on. Number 1, will the Broomtree Transitional Housing be serving individuals who are struggling with active addiction? So Matt already addressed that a little bit, so I'm gonna answer it here again too in our own words. Rules of conduct will be enforced. One rule will be drug and/or alcohol will not be permitted on the property, and occupants cannot be under the influence on the premises. Failure to comply will be means for eviction. Such individuals will be supported, however, in accessing outside treatment support, like Sarmad indicated earlier. Number two, another main question that came up a lot was, will there be an increase in traffic around this property? That did seem to be a concern. And our answer is, we anticipate there will be relatively the same amount of traffic as there would be in any multifamily dwelling in this same neighborhood. And many of our guests will likely be walking as well. And number three, will the Broomtree House be a shelter to support women who are fleeing domestic violence and need the security of a lockdown facility? And I want to be clear, the answer is no. Any women who are at risk of family violence and are in need of secure housing will be referred to the surrounding women's shelters in Alberta. One of our primary goals is to be good neighbors, all the while serving our community well. We want to update and beautify the building to have more of a residential home feel by removing the sign that's out front currently. We want to add flower beds and making improvements that fit the neighborhood well. On behalf of the Broomtree Foundation, I'd like to say thank you for your time this evening and encourage you to reach out to any one of our team members. There's lots of them here tonight, or come on down to the cafe and visit us, and we're happy to answer any questions that come up. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. And so if there's anyone else who would care to speak in favor, now is your time to do so.
Thank you for this opportunity to publicly support something this important. My name is Barb Walker and I live right next door, so I wasn't sure if I was part of the in favor or of the affected, because I think I'm both. From my time managing Neighborhood Place here in Lacombe, and now many years working with the provincial community and social services, one thing that's become very clear is that everyone needs help sometimes. The difference between those giving help and those needing help can be a pretty fine line. And with our current economic challenges, it's only made it more so. A place like the Broomtree House would give some of our most vulnerable families the help they need, some breathing space, some comfort, while they make that viable plan for the future. Lacombe is an amazingly giving community that I'm proud to be a part of, and I expect many people here share that sentiment. In fact, my Central Alberta government counterparts are honestly quite tired of hearing me brag. Well, in Lacombe, we do it this way. We give easily, we give generously of our time and frankly our money, and now we need to give something even more important. It's that safe, supportive, welcoming place to be. Like I said, I live right next door to the Broomtree House. I know the name won't be on there, but that's what I'm calling it. I look forward to seeing it become the lovely apartment building that they have planned, one providing the support and oversight that all families, all communities need. What I'm hoping here from you, City Council, is that you will approve this very specific discretionary use of that empty building right next to us. And I think we are going to get some really good neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else choosing to speak in favor? Please step forward.
Good evening, Mayor Creasy and council members. My name is Mark Running. I represent Lacombe Pentecostal Church. I've been the pastor in the community of that church for 30 years, just over. I'm well aware of most of the history of that building on 5346 50th Avenue. I speak in favor of the Broomtree being able to make the amendment or approach for amendment, and hopefully that you'll approve. I think for many, it becomes a great synergy. There's many of our churches that work together through Lacombe Ministerial Association. And over the 30 years that I've served and raised my family in this community, I have found that on the Ministerial Association, we've worked together with FCSS and many other projects. that deal with children, that deal with moms and families all together. Many of our churches have constantly sought ways we can help in greater ways. So as a churches in Lacombe and me representing Lacombe Pentecostal Church, we see a great opportunity for a synergy where churches that meet on a daily basis with vulnerable men and women, and in this case, women and their children, we have a great opportunity to work together with Broomtree in such a way that there is a winning on the other side for these women and their children. Broomtree has a great opportunity to meet with them. They have great experience from the years that both these founders have put together. And out of that, there's a growing confidence in the Broomtree amongst the churches of this city to be able to not only accommodate, but to put together programs and help source out other programs for these women and their children that help them to restart their life, to help them over the hump that they find themselves in a crisis situation. Lacombe Pentecostal Church has been a church that has often worked with young people in many ways. We have our own ministry to young people, from our youngest of children right up through to young adult. We presently run a program for 60-some children, teenagers through our church. So it's always been part of our, I guess, DNA. When we were approached by Wolf Creek Public School Division to perhaps house the outreach school for children, teenagers in particular, and junior hires, and some in earlier times in previous days there, it was a great idea for us because we were able to see how help was coming to teenagers that perhaps lost tolerance at the main school level. Some learned differently and had trouble in the mainstream. And I, in some regards, became a chaplain to many of the years and the administrating principals there. I was often asked to come to their banquets and to pray and to their graduation ceremonies and to their Christmas luncheons and to their times where grants and those kinds of things were given out to teens that had fared well. I would say, well, teens can be teens, and the building on the inside has been well used over 20 years of use. The teens love that building, the youth loved it there, and they took good respect to the building. It is tired on the inside. So while those situations are there, I do believe that with Broomtree coming in to become possibly the new residents there with the ability to provide housing for those in a short-term kind of need, I think we will be doing a great service to our community. We'll be doing a great service to Young Life and to the families altogether. So I would suggest that, and I am hoping that you will see to be in favor of the Broomtree being there. We are working with Broomtree for an agreeable amounts that can be worked out financially that's both agreeable to them and to us. And we know what the taxation would be for that building in various kinds of conditions. And we also know what it's worth as a building. And we are in negotiations to help them to be able to appropriate that property. So that's all that I would have to say, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you for the opportunity for the council to hear us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? See some movement at the back there. Welcome. Thank you, Tamara.
Oh, thank you. My name is Chuck Polson. This is different. The last time I was here, I was the only one that came. I came to oppose the dance studio moving in the building. Not that I have anything against dancing or the owner who I met later. But so to see this, see all you people shocks me. But I'm the neighbor to the building. when the school was there. I've lived there since 1989. And I had to think through what I thought. Last time I mentioned that the back alleyway is about as wide as this, so to speak. And traffic and things were a concern. And you decided to turn it down, the request for the use. And it's different this time. I went to the Broom Trees Tea because I didn't know very much about them and found them very approachable. I asked many questions and had to, I've got great neighbors. It really is a community where we're sort of recluses in a way and yet very kind to each other. And no matter which way they choose, they're great people. And my wife and I have been so kindly received. And I'm a recluse. And they still put up with me. And I had to think, who are my neighbors? And who's worthy to be my neighbor? How would I judge? And the people that the Broom Tree is trying to help are people that need help in specific times in their life. And those times are crucial. It's one thing to give to a charity. It's another thing when the needy live right beside you. And you have to decide. And it's sort of like, if you ever had the chance, I was a police officer. If you ever had the chance to witness somebody drowning, you have a choice to either be safe or put yourself in danger to help rescue somebody else. And many a time it's a matter of timing. And what they're trying to do, from my understanding, I think that the timing is important because what we see in the years ahead are going to be more people that all of a sudden they're hearing the footsteps and nobody comes home. Somebody dies or they get deserted. And at those moments, somebody that's willing to risk helping them can make a big difference. So I'd be content to have them as my neighbors. And I hope they get to meet the rest of the neighbors because they're good neighbors.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor? Second call for anyone that wishes to speak in favor? Not seeing any hands, but I will make a third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. No, that's for those wishing to speak in favor. Correct? Under the wire, you come on up and join us. And the bar is right on the bottom of that unit there. Once the red light is on, the floor is yours.
Mayor, Council, my name is Rob Butcher. I've been a member of this community for 30 years or so, worked here, live here. My daughter has gone through a breakup in her marriage and has received tremendous support from the Broom Tree. And I'm very thankful for this organization being in our community. I can't say enough good about them. And I think I've heard great things tonight. And I just appreciate their willingness to help in people that are having struggles and difficulties. And I would very much like to see them established in this location that they're looking at right now. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? Seeing none, I will ask that anyone who wishes to speak in opposition, now is your opportunity to do so. Please make your way to the front. And while you're getting your notes there, just a reminder to turn on the microphone, please.
Mr. Mayor, council members, and guests. My name is Mike Boyko. I am the owner of 5351 51st Avenue in Lacombe. I have lived there for 17 years with my wife, Susie. We live, our property is to the northwest corner of the subject property. It is regrettable that there's still a need for a woman's refuge in today's society. It's wonderful that there are foundations like the Broom Tree out there to serve this need. My family and I believe that a foundation such as this is important, and we agree with its values and with its goals. Foundations like these face many challenges while providing care for those in need. Among of which is finding a location that will meet the needs of their clients as they integrate into long-term affordable housing. The proposed location at 5346 50th Ave is on the onset, seems ideal for this enterprise. Unfortunately, its location is currently zoned R1 residential, nested between well-established R1 residential homes. The concern in supporting the amendment is the traffic, security lighting, potentially increased police presence, that a 10-plex and a 5-office space development like this would bring to an established, quiet residential community. The original zoning amendment allowed for a church with peak traffic only 1 day a week. This proposal would see a steady stream of potentially 15 vehicles on a daily basis and at all hours of the day, a potential of 20 children ranging in the ages from 0 to 18 years old, infused into an already very busy back alley that can barely support the pedestrian and vehicle traffic interface that it does now. The parking lot is not paved and the dust is an issue. Renovation and construction traffic will be a nuisance. And where will all of these 0 to 18-year-old children play? In the alley, in the traffic. Garbage and debris will require additional garbage bins. I already have 4 within 80 feet of my back property line. When people say not in my backyard, well, everyone, this is literally in my backyard. In previous amendment hearings, the city had no appetite to support infrastructure upgrades, no additional lighting, no additional paving to support any kind of project in the back alley. So we, the existing landowners, have to tolerate the increased density and all the associated traffic, the noise that comes with a 10-plex, and 5 offices, up to 20 children, ages from 0 to 18 years old, potential emergency support staffing that would come along with this, potential 24-hour security lighting, that will happen. And of course, security fencing or fencing of any kind of nature in that way. As a landowner, I have a financial interest in this decision. My home value will decrease because of this development, 100%. And my resale will be an issue. I have not worked 17 years to build equity into my home to see it all vanish in an instant. Although I support the Broomtree Foundation and what it represents, I do not support its development, and I do not support this land use bylaw amendment. My concern is once we open up the doors for this amendment, that it is ripe potentially for safe injection sites and other support services, and that is not going to happen literally in my backyard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if there's others that wish to speak in opposition, now is your opportunity. Please come forward.
On. Okay. My name is Candace Campbell and I own the property right directly across the street. I own And Everything Nice Antiques, and Mike has already said quite a bit. My biggest concern is, first of all, where 5313, where the chiropractic office is, we were told that they were, actually, we were not told that they were going to change the zoning to commercial. All of a sudden, I have an insurance company across the street from me. They take out the little house, the little apartment, and before I know it, there's a big box store across the street. We had 7 years that we had to fight for them to be quiet between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning for snow blowing, and they've yet to turn off the 13 lights that are still in my bedroom window. There are a lot of things that change when you do an amendment to a bylaw. And I understand that the Broomtree wants this area, they want this property. Again, to bring up that there's no play space. I don't think that there's adequate parking. You're on a major highway that traffic starts at 6 o'clock in the morning and it is just wild for the rest of the day. I think it's inappropriate for 10 residents to be in this place, whether they're temporary or not. What I brought up with Rexall being there is that when you make an amendment, say 5 years, they lose their funding, whatever happens, this amendment will stay for a long time. What else is going to happen with this property? I just don't see it being something that's going to be good for the community. I think the traffic is going to be amazing. I'm not for it. In one of the areas you said, but not limited to. So the proposed bylaw will also add a definition of transitional housing within the land use bylaw. The transitional housing may include additional services such as, but not limited to, office, administrative offices, meeting rooms. So that really opens up a door to whatever you want to put there. So I feel that this is not really laid out in stone as to, I understand what they want to do. And yeah, I agree. In my first marriage, I absolutely had to use a facility like this, and I understand, but I think it's the wrong place. My little list here is Children 0 to 18, once again, where are they going to be? Yes, definitely, it's going to hit property value. Hey, come and, purchase my home. Oh, by the way, across the street, there's transitional housing. Well, they're going to walk away. I think that the excess lighting, which I have to deal with on a daily basis, is going to be something for security around the building. You will never have another dark evening in your backyard or your front yard. It's absolutely blinding. I think we're going to have some inner city issues. I think that one of the reasons a lot of people move to Lacombe is to get away from inner city issues, and there they are right in front of me. Is it my backyard? No, it's my front yard. And I think that it needs to be done. I think that we do need it. I think it's the wrong place. Let me see. Definitely, and I know that you don't consider property value, but I think it's going to have a big thing to do with that. What else do I have? Oh, because of the way the world is today, and these questions need to be asked, is it going to be women or people that identify as women? I accept everybody. I'm not prejudiced, don't care, but that's a question that I need to know. Will this just be what we old-fashioned folk called women, or will it be anybody who identifies? Because that will also change the situation. So am I for it? Absolutely not. I think it needs to be done, but I think it needs to be someplace a little more safe. Thank you.
Mayor Creasy and council, neighbors, room tree guests. I apologize for my casual attire. I rushed here from work so that I could join this meeting. My husband is Mike Boyko, and I think you can tell by the way he speaks, he has great passion for this community, as do I.
Can I interrupt you? There might be some that either can't see you or don't know your voice. So if you just state your name for the record, I'd appreciate it.
My name for the record is Susie Burge. I've lived in Lacombe, as Mike said, for about 17 years. I contribute to this community. I contribute to a lot of different organizations, mostly through my work. I'm quite fortunate that way that I have access to a lot of different organizations, anywhere from Women's Emergency Outreach to the Mustard Seed to CACAC, which is Central Alberta Child Advocacy Center. And they are putting together an incredible facility in Red Deer that they're about to launch and open. Having had these experiences, I do have concern about the location of this facility. I am 100% in support of what the Broom Tree does, of what these agencies do. But it's a long night, it's a warm night in these chambers. I just wanted to voice that I do have concerns about the location, about the volume of traffic, about what happens 2 years from now if there obviously facilities like these are in great need, and that's the unfortunate part. And we've heard that facilities that do this good work get to capacity so quickly. So what happens then? And I wonder if council has considered what happens then if this facility gets to capacity. Unfortunately, for the people who need it, I know it will. I believe it will. And I don't know if this, again, is the right location. I do believe a place like this does have a place in Lacombe. I'm not so sure that the proposed property in its capacity with the volume, as was said before, is truly the right location. I'm wondering if council can snap their fingers and find the perfect location. I don't envy what you have in front of you. I don't envy the choices that you have to make. But I just hope and pray that you consider all things, despite the appearance of things. We are not shallow neighbors. And Pastor Colson is one of the best neighbors. I just hope you truly consider the impact that it will have in the spot that it is. I mean, thank you for your time and letting us speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? of this bylaw amendment? Second call for those in opposition. And third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. This is your last chance. Very good. Seeing none, I will move on to any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard at this time. If there's anyone that fits in that category, now is your time to be heard. And I see no one that falls into that category. Do I see a hand waving back there? No, somebody's just dying of heat. So being we have no one additional who wishes to speak at this time, does council have any questions of any of the presenters? Need some clarification, or Councillor Gullickson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. This question is through to Tamara regarding the numbers. In your letter of intent, you say 7 suites, and we've heard 10. Is 10 the right number, or is 7 the right number?
7 is the correct number, but it was advised to us to go up to 10 based on if anything was to change over the next few years. So, and that was the recommendation from the planning committee.
Okay, thank you.
So to be clear, that number is 10 then, if that was what was submitted. Okay, very good. Any other council members? I could get my clock to work. Thank you for that. It is now 6:47 p.m. and I'm going to declare that the public hearing for bylaw 400.41 is now closed. And now that it is, I just wanted to thank everyone who did speak for doing so. Some heartfelt and differing opinions. I just really appreciate the respectful manner in which they were presented. Thank you for that. Good representation of our community. I think at this time we will move down to item 6.1 and ask the manager Hackett to take us through bylaw 400.41, the land use bylaw amendment site exception.
Thank you very much, Mayor Creasy, members of council. So just to recap, the request before council tonight is to amend the land use bylaw through bylaw 400.41 to firstly add a definition of transitional housing to the bylaw. So that transitional housing means a facility providing supportive temporary living accommodation for persons in need of short-term accommodation as they transition into permanent housing over a period of time. Transitional housing may include additional services such as, but not limited to, administrative offices, meeting rooms, and recreation facilities for use by the residents. So that's the first part of the changes proposed. The second part is to add a site-specific exception to the property at the west, legally described as the west part of Lot 30, Plan RN9, which has the civic address of 5346 50th Avenue. And this site-specific exception would be to allow a transitional housing up to 10 accommodation units and 5 offices within the existing building as a discretionary use. And Mayor Creasy, just to, I know there was a question earlier about accommodation unit and what does that mean? So accommodation unit is already defined in the land use bylaw under the definitions on page 17. And it means 1 or more rooms that provide sleeping accommodation and bathroom facilities, but is not equipped with self-contained cooking facilities. So that is just to answer that question. So this would be, the site exception is for up to 10 of those units in the existing building. The recommendation from administration tonight is that council support the amendment and give second and third reading to the bylaw tonight. The proposed use would occupy a vacant building that has limited options for reuse. It would offer community housing support. It is seen in our professional planning opinion to be consistent with the current planning policy in the municipal development plan and the downtown area redevelopment plan documents, and is seen as generally compatible with the surrounding area. With that, I'm happy with the assistance of Planner Abassi and Planner Footman to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Manager Hackett. With respect to the definition, I appreciate that's the way that it appears. I think that the question arose with respect to overall numbers, and my expectation of that would be better defined through the building code and the allowances that are given there that are required for those provisions are outlined in our definition of unit. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor Creasy. Of course, any redevelopment of this property will be subject to the Alberta Safety Code, the building code, in terms of determining the occupancy and the number of bedrooms. But the bylaw is suggesting a maximum of 10 under this site exception, at the most 10.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'm in support of this. The organization that's come forward has made a tremendous effect. Obviously, already, as said, 240 individuals. Going forward in these times, mental health is becoming an area that significantly needs to be addressed to young people and children and people that are having to start over in life events. And this affects everybody's walks of life. It's just not those with addictions and so forth. There are people that go through some very significant changes that, and this organization has got, what I always say, and being part of boards, commissions, and committees, is the volunteers and people with passion behind it to make a difference. And that's community. I was raised in a farming community that you helped thy neighbor. You sucked it up. You came together in a time of need. And this is just what this group of people is continuing to do. As we as council will continuously hear, not in my backyard. And that is the really difficult part and to make decisions. But I will say, in correspondence with CO Gowdy, this same lot, bigger lot, could accommodate a 10-unit apartment building. You can't control who rents them apartments. You don't know their lives. You don't know their affairs. And, you know, of the 240 people you've helped, I'm sure you've had your eyes open to different walks of life. And that is a concern of the neighbors, that you don't know them all. And you're going to have some situations arise. And their concern is to not have effect, follow the rules, and make it a secure, safe place as what they have had as a community. So I do support it. It's going to come, I understand, come back to MPC as well. But I would like to make the motion the council give second reading to bylaw 400.41 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. First of all, thank you to everybody who spoke tonight. I was emotionally moved by it, and I really appreciate the stories, but I also appreciate not in my backyard. I understand that too. So I do have a question to Manager Hackett about a site exception. It was mentioned that that never goes away. Is that the truth, or can this be a change that is only for as long as Broomtree is in that location? Does that make sense?
Yes, Mayor Creasy, through to Councillor Hoekstra. At this time, the site exception is written not specific to the Broomtree, but just as a transitional housing project. The site exception would be there, a future use. It doesn't remove the other uses in the district, so they're limited though. So it doesn't mean this would only be used for transitional housing. If council wanted to be more restrictive, they could put a time limit on that. That is challenging sometimes to an applicant. If they were concerned with the size, that is something that council could also work on. It's difficult to say associate it with only one organization without zoning for people, which needs to be a land use item that we're zoning for as opposed to a type of person, for example. So that's a bit of a challenge, but there is a few ways to address that in the site exception. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So I'm definitely sensitive to the concerns that have been brought forward. Obviously, we read some of them that were in the package and then some of them that were brought forward this evening. And so I guess what I really want to hear from administration is some reassurances that those concerns, not that they're not valid, but that they will be addressed. So for example, one of the comments was, should this go forward as it is right now, what's to stop it from cascading into something even, I'm going to say worse, but you know what I'm saying? Whether it's a drug site or some other purpose. So I guess what my question would be is how are we going to ensure that that is not the case, that today's proposed use for that will only be that use and not sort of slippery slide into some other use?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Councillor Hibb. I don't know if my fellow planners have abandoned me here or, but I will take a first stab at answering it. It is proposed as a discretionary use. So part of your question was how, how does this move forward? How are we assured? So as a discretionary use, the Development Authority or Municipal Planning Commission could place additional conditions when the permit comes forward. So they could place conditions around lighting, if lighting were a concern, around the landscaping, if that were a concern, around the size, the condition of the parking lot was one of the things that was raised tonight. So that could be done at the time of the development permit, and those would be requirements before the project had final approval. In terms of adding things on such as medical clinic uses or treatment uses, those are not currently part of the site exception, and those are defined differently in the bylaw. So those items they're not currently envisioned in this exception. And if it in the future, some user did want to add medical treatment or addiction treatment, that would require an amendment, a further amendment to the bylaw, because that is how it is written right now. And I don't know if my colleagues have anything to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Ms. Hack has been doing a very good job of answering the question. We don't have a lot to add, I don't think, but we first discussed this application when it came in back in November, and we deliberately recommended making this a discretionary use so that the Development Authority, the Municipal Planning Commission, would have the opportunity to impose conditions. And a lot was said about lighting tonight, and I would be the first to say that a lot of security lighting is obnoxious and badly done. But security lighting can be well designed in a way that doesn't cast light onto neighboring properties and cause a problem. So that's a condition that the MPC could quite reasonably impose. Now, in terms of this turning into some kind of other use, a clear effort's been made here to define transitional housing and to create a specific definition. So if there's a concern about this becoming, say, a safe injection site, well, this doesn't include a safe injection site. I don't think any reasonable person would interpret this use as including that. So if that were to be the proposal, and I would be very surprised if it ever was, but if that were to be a proposal in the future, it would have to come back to council for another site-specific amendment to the land use bylaw. Parking, obviously, well, there's more than adequate parking in that parking lot. Yes, it is a gravel lot. The question arises, could that be improved in some fashion? But that's a discussion that would have to be had with the foundation, and MPC would have to decide whether or not improving that lot would be a reasonable condition. Obviously, a lot of landscaping will be done to the site, because I think there's an anticipation that there will be some outdoor amenity space for the people who reside there. So I think there's lots of ideas that are only touched on in the package, but have not yet been articulated. But so I trust that these comments are helpful to council.
Thank you for that. And I do have a follow-up question from Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that because I think in something like this, it's just extra important that we listen to the concerns and that we respond to them. So I appreciate that. I feel like that it's in place, that we have protections from what we don't want, and that we do have the framework for what we do want. I will state that I am in support of this. I think that this is a hugely valuable thing to have in our community, but it has to be done right. I know there's some concerns about whether this is the proper location. I don't believe there is going to ever be a proper location, and I think one of the people commented on that. I'll tell you, one of the things I really do like about this location is when you have a situation like this, it's important to keep things as normal as possible. And I think having access to schools for kids that are nearby, there is a playground that's nearby, you're still in your community and you can make a change and you're supported. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little bit emotional about this, but this is a need in our community. And I think we have an opportunity to work together to make this happen and it to be a positive experience for all of the neighbors. And so I just want to make sure the protections are in place, that we've listened to the concerns, that we can address them. I know there's members of MPC sitting in this room right now. I no longer sit on that board. I miss it. But so I know they've been listening. And then when the time comes for this to come as an application, because it is discretionary, that the conditions are in place to protect those that had concerns, but make this a really positive experience and something that's going to be successful and sustainable, because that's the key. That's really what we need in this community. So I appreciate the opportunity to say that.
Thank you. So I too do value the work that the Broom Tree Foundation does, and I also am not deaf to the concerns of that was outlined here from some of the landowners in the immediate area. I think that through working with administration between MPC and the proposed owners, that we can come up with some viable solutions to some of the concerns that have been brought forward here tonight, and still be able to have this facility in an area of our community. I too am of the opinion that there is never going to be a perfect location. This is a location that is available now, and I think that it could be built in a way that does respect the neighborhood and the neighbors. What it comes down to for me is I have no reason to doubt that Tamara Nordoff and her colleagues will live up to the expectations of this. However, everything in this world is temporary. And at one point in time, there will be perhaps a different person at the helm, or a different board, or whatever the structure may be, that may not share all of the same identical values and whatnot. And I think that the residents in the area and our community overall deserve some sort of stopgap measure, a way of containing things with an expectation that it is going to continue as was outlined. So whether it's a time frame thing, somehow we've got to have a safety net in place that does protect the landowners. When I just think back in my memory from some of the letters that were put forward and whatnot, they all sound great, and they really do. And like I said, I have no expectation that those won't be upheld by the current management and volunteers. But things over time can change. And I look forward to working with administration on coming up with ways that we can address these, because this is, as was outlined earlier, an unfortunate but very necessary and proven need in our community, and one that deserves to have a place to operate safely and in a welcoming area. It's difficult when you have individuals who live immediately next door that perhaps are not thrilled about it, and yet others that are. So it's up to council to put forth some reasonable solutions and a framework that can make everyone equally dissatisfied. is the reality where we're at. So yeah, that's, we do have a motion before us. Councillor Conick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. First off, thank you to everyone who's come out this evening. I've had the pleasure of being the longest serving councillor on here for some time now. And I'm experiencing a little bit of deja vu here. Can't remember if it was 10 years ago or how long it was ago. I think Mayor Creasy was here at the time as well. But we had a packed gallery as well when Youth Unlimited came to us and wanted to bring forth transitional housing for young men aged 16 to 24. They had purchased a home in a residential neighborhood, and the neighbors came, and some of the very same concerns that I'm hearing tonight were the same concerns that they had then. Lo and behold, the concerns they had never materialized. Those young men actually went out and shoveled sidewalks for their neighbors, baked goods for their neighbors, and ended up being a wonderful addition to that particular street. So I can respect and understand the concerns that have been put forward. I truly believe if this organization is run as well as I anticipate it will be run, that a lot of those concerns will not come to fruition. I'm also confident that MPC will make the adjustments as necessary in terms of lighting and whatever parking and but the notion not in my backyard, I've heard it before, and it never, those concerns never materialized. So I just want to bring that forward, that I get those reasons why you've brought those forward, but again, those housing, in fact, Youth Unlimited opened a second home for young women too. So it's been successful for them. I am confident this will be successful and work in this location as well. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I guess our package, I'm not sure if many people in the gallery were able to go through and check the agenda before, but we read the concerns, we saw them. I was pleased with the process that it seems the Broomtree has taken to consult the neighborhood, consult everybody involved. This is my first time going through this, so I'm not sure how other organizations have done this, but I think it was well done, and I can certainly appreciate concerns of residents in that neighborhood. However, I saw a full response to almost every concern listed in here, and I was grateful to see those answers. Sorry, PS, both members, thank you guys for your work, and Manager Hackett as well. I think you've done really excellent work here in providing us with the information we need to help make this decision. Our community relies on outside organizations to fill these roles, and every time one steps up to try to fill these, it's invaluable that we listen and try to use their resources available to fill these needs. So I am in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. As was outlined, I think, by Councillor Conick, there are a few of us that are on the MPC. I happen to chair the MPC. There are a few items that were outlined here, and I just wanted to take a list while we've got everyone in the room so I don't gloss over any. I recall adequate parking provisions being a concern, reasonably respectful yard and safety lighting, and an appropriate children's play area. Were there other items that council can think of that ought to make the list as well? I'll let you think about that for a moment. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'd like to thank the public for coming out tonight. What a great response to this on both sides. I am in support of this project also. And you talk about not in my backyard. I did talk to Guy about putting something like this in my backyard, basically. It's true. There's a vacant lot up by my house that I think would be ideal for transitional housing. I mean, it would be way more expensive than this, but at some day, maybe we'll have it there. So I think this is a great neighbor compared to some rental neighbors I've had beside me over the years who have caused a lot of trouble. The 24-hour staff on site, I think, is really important, and to keep it all under control. And I think the biggest thing here is that this is temporary, safe housing to people that are in need, and that they need our support. I 100% support this idea, and I look forward to its completion.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. This is one of those things that I guess all the councillors should be speaking to, so I'll speak yet to it. I most certainly am in favor of this. I have a social services background. I am all about supporting and being there for our community. But I wanted to speak to what Mayor Creasy said, that people may change out of their roles. And so what is going to happen if certain key people leave? But I guess I really commend so many of you for showing up, because you are like that cloud of witnesses. And so if one of you steps away, the others will remember what your neighbors have asked you to be. And I trust that you will do that. And so thank you for being here as this great cloud of witnesses. Thank you most of all, though, for your work with our people. And I thank you for that.
I see no one else wishes to speak at this time, so I think we do have the question before us. And I'll ask that after this much discussion, I'll ask that our legislative coordinator read the motion back to us.
Motion from Councillor Ross is that council gives second reading to bylaw 400.41 as presented.
Thank you. That is before you on your devices. Please enter your vote. And that is unanimously in favor for the second reading of bylaw 400.41. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council give third reading to bylaw 400.41 as presented.
Thank you. So you want to have any additional before considering third reading? Basically, I was just giving IT a moment to bring that up on the screen, which I think has been done. So please enter your vote. And that is unanimously in favor as well. Thank you, everyone, once again. What time? That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So it is 7:15. We've been at this for a while. So let's take a 10-minute recess and reconvene for item 6.2. the feed up and running again? Thank you. So we're live on air, everyone. And that takes us down to our next item here, which is the community builder partnership policy rather, item 6.2. Director Lapointe is not presenting. Appreciate you being here, Manager Mitchell. And just a reminder that when your light is on, then your microphone is live. And when you're ready to go, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council. This evening, Council is asked to approve the revised Community Builder Partnership Policy and rescind the previous policy, the Community Builder Partnership Policy. Following the November 14th motion to endorse the revision, administration collaborated with the Lacombe District Recreation, Parks and Culture Board to bring you the version presented today. As you can probably recall, the revised policy proposes to consolidate the current Community Builder Partnership Policy and the Recreation and Culture Grant to expand their scopes, including programs and events. The revised policy will further empower the Lacombe District Recreation, Parks and Culture Board to foster innovative community projects, programming, and event opportunities through flexible financial support to applicants. The board would approve funding for capital projects, programs, and events under $10,000. Council would be responsible for approvals above that threshold with recommendations received from the board. As always, council can approve projects above the $50,000 annual contribution by accessing the reserve fund. The revised policy will also assist in filling gaps identified by this year's community needs assessment in alignment with City Council's strategic plan. Council would receive an annual report from the board identifying all programs, events, or capital projects that received funding through this program. In collaboration with the Lacombe District Recreation, Parks and Culture Board, recommendations regarding project timelines have been clarified and defined in the updated version. During this process, many discussions were had as to how this policy will help to further support recreation and culture within the city. The board was very enthusiastic about the opportunities that the revised policy will create, and no significant changes were made to the previously presented draft policy. Minor changes include more flexible language, such as may versus will, and required project commencement dates within 24 months of grant approval. After the initial presentation to council, several groups have already approached administration with their interest to bring new programs and events to the city by accessing this grant. If approved tonight, administration is ready to immediately begin the application process. Administration is recommending to council that they approve the Community Buildership Partnership Policy as presented this evening and rescind the previous policy. And with that, I'm open to any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you for that outline. We appreciate it. Forgive me for being rude and not introducing you. When it kind of threw me when I looked up to not see Director Lapointe there. So Sherry, Manager Mitchell is our Manager of Recreation. We appreciate the role that you perform and are responsible to Director Lapointe. And thank you for coming to present this evening. With respect to the policy, Director Piché looks like she would like to. Okay, thank you. I was thinking, wow, she's really on this. That makes a little better sense. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So I guess at first glance, this kind of makes sense. I guess I just have some concerns that I don't know, like as been shown there, we've accessed the Community Building Partnership Policy a few times, and a couple of occasions it's been for rather significant dollars. I guess my concern is is there a chance to build up a nice amount again, or is it going to be, we put in, like I see there, you can do 50,000 max a year, and anything over 10 will have to come back to council. But my fear is that the Rec and Cultural Board will give out and things for $9,000 a piece. And then, you know, the 90,000, that money's gone again, which is fine. But then I don't see us accruing, you know, a significant balance. I know there's some in, I believe there's some in a reserve fund there yet, but I don't see us adding to the reserve as we've done in the past, because if we don't spend money on a project, then it just adds to the total, and next year we have more to spend, so to speak. So I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from. I get the intent and I like the idea, especially of supporting other events, such as music festivals and so forth, but I'm just wondering if, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is the best. I don't see us saving a lot for significant capital projects anymore. That's just my thoughts on that, through this fund, at any rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conick. So I believe there was some reference made within the current outline that monies, funds could accrue, and there was not an expectation that if you didn't disperse the money, it was gone for that year. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So there's $50,000 allotted to programs and, capital project or events, and then 50,000 to capital projects. And if like any of that money doesn't get spent within either of those, the remaining balance would go into, would accrue in the reserve fund.
Certainly.
Sorry if I may, Mayor Creasy, and I can respect that, I get that. But as we've seen with the fund, for example, that FCSS used to administer, they get way more applications than they have money. So I suspect that once people get wind of this, you're going to see in excess of 20, 30 applications. And I see this money being spent every year quite easily, and that there won't be any sort of accrual, but that's just me.
And I don't think anybody could deny that the possibility exists of that occurring. However, I think that given the representation on the board, there's enough level heads there that will understand the difference between good community building or not. And just to get rid of the funds it would certainly not, just for the sake of doing so, is not in anyone's best interest. But I mean, your point is well taken, because as much as we can try and put these monies out in the community through the board, there's always the option for groups to come looking for more, especially from council. And this is meant to alleviate that and let that board put in the time and effort and put monies where they think it's going to be the most benefit for the community. As far as addressing that item, I think we either put it in the hands of them or we do not. There's not really a halfway system other than the oversight of the large disbursements, which is already in place. But it's certainly, if there's any other creative things that we can do to try and eliminate that fear, I think it would certainly be entertained. Chief Gowdy?
So one thing I would point out for the 50,000 that's associated with capital projects, I think that is part of where your fear is that, well, $5,000-$10,000 capital projects get fired out and there's nothing left for those major ones that council would have later. But the board is still fettered by the 25% maximum of that capital project. So for that scenario to occur year after year would also mean that there is at least $150,000 of other money coming in to support these groups to match the city's 50,000. So while it is possible, I would say, well, that's probably a pretty good scenario, in which case your 50,000 is being spent every year to be combined with another 150. You're probably getting very good value. They can't approve $10,000 with no matching, for example, and just use city money only, if that helps.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I do understand Council Connick's position, but it's very, very difficult to put on an event without having kind of that extra cash to take the risk away and yet to make a difference in the community to put on an event. It's like done Lacombe Days for 9 years, and you know, you do what you can within the budget that you have, but you can't constantly hear the comment every year. It's the same, but yet you just don't have that little extra to take it to the next step, or at least start something to hopefully accumulate some revenue to hopefully be able to do it independently. So it's, yeah, I understand, but it's like I'm hearing between culture and tourism, possibility of a Pinties, and if that's done anything like the Councillor Gullickson and his committee did with the provincials, that's a huge like tourism that brings in for restaurants and everything else. So, and now I certainly was out on the Rec and Culture Board, and I would like to make the motion that council approves the community builder partnership policy as presented.
Thank you. In our outline here, it talks an extra $30,000, just to be sure, is that's already accounted for in our 2023 budget?
Yes, it is, Mayor Creasy.
Just want everybody at home to be aware of that as well. Thank you. Councillor Dallas?
Thank you, Mayor Casey. Thank you, CAO Gowdy, for that explanation on the $50,000 and the 25%. In regards to the money being spent every year, I think congratulations, everyone. We did it. That's what it was there for. So I like this, and thank you.
I don't see anybody else wanting to speak. Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. No, I just wanted to thank CEO Gutty too. I guess I didn't completely read the whole thing, but that makes me feel a little bit better about it at any rate. That only for as far as capital projects go, that we'll only need up to 25%. So needless to say, I suspect this money will go quickly every year. Thank you.
I believe Councillor Ross has a motion on the floor, and that is on your voting devices. So please vote now. And that is unanimous as well. Thanks, everyone. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would move that council rescind policy 62/210.10 parentheses 12 for some reason, a community builder partnership policy.
So as is common practice, we don't want to have two conflicting bylaws in the books at one time. So does anyone have anything to add to that? I think it's up on our machine, so please vote now. And that is unanimous as well. And see that Director Lapointe will be asking for your assistance lots in the future with this kind of an outcome. Thanks, Manager Mitchell. I believe we have addressed item 6.3 for the bylaw 450.1. And that brings us down to, we'll go through our upcoming meetings. All are for regular council meetings at 5:30 here in Chambers. Those will be on later this month, January 23rd, Monday, February 13th, and Monday, February 27th. I expect to be away for the February 13th. And the deputy mayor, I believe, is Councillor Dallas. So he will be chairing that meeting. And I think the only other items that we have for discussion this evening are the in-camera items. So if we could have a motion to that effect,
I'm
please.
gonna get it.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll make the motion. We move in camera.
Thank you. It is at 7:43, and I'll ask you to vote now, please. Exactly. That is unanimous. We are now in camera, and once we have the indication, we're off